What's up, guys, and welcome back to Erudite Magic. My name is Jeff. If you love all things magic book related, you are in the right place, and we're so glad to have you here. Click that like button, subscribe down below, and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of our awesome content. Today I have a really exciting video for you. I want to talk about one of my absolute favorite creators in card magic, none other than the incomparable John Bannon. While there are a lot of John Bannon books, there's one that consistently comes to mind as being pound for pound some of the strongest card magic I've ever seen. I'm talking about Dear Mr. Fantasy. Early on in my career, this is one of the first magic books that I picked up, and it has stood me well over the test of time. I've come back to it again and again and again to learn from its wisdom. Of course, I have the hardback edition here. It is really no longer in print as a hardback book. I believe you can get a softcover edition from the author himself, John Bannon, and I will attempt to put a link to that. There's also a PDF or ebook edition if you want to spend even less and still want the content. I've been asked to give a comparison for the book, so I'm going to show you here how it is approximately the same height and width as a Tarbell book. It is going to be slightly slimmer than a Tarbell book, and but approximately the same dimensions. So what's inside? It is 100% cards. So unlike some of Bannon's other books, this is all cards, but it is quite the variety of card magic. The author starts off right away with a series of 3 different ace assemblies. Ace assemblies may not be your thing, but John Bannon has a way of messing with the timing of tricks, and these ace assemblies are no exception to that. In each one, the aces reassemble right before you actually think that they would. I remember early on in the days of YouTube looking up a video of the 3 of these ace assemblies and being absolutely blown away and having no idea how any of them were done. I'll see if I can find those clips and provide the links to you. I should mention that when I talk about the timing of these tricks, John Bannon actually discusses that early on in the book, that he's always looking for magic to happen on the offbeat. He's not interested in magic being predictable. He wants things to be interesting for the participants. After the ace assemblies in the second section, Mr. Bannon, who is an amateur performer, I would say, he mostly performs for friends and co-workers when he's out. When he performs, he gives you an entire set that you can use that would really blow people away. He teaches you some really fabulous controls, as well as a neat presentation for kind of a warm-up trick that gets the audience going. He then has them cut to the 4 aces in what I think is one of the cleanest and best looking 4 ace spectator cuts to the 4 ace tricks out there. Within this section is the one cull that I learned first and deployed for a variety of different tricks. It is a fantastic cull under the guise of going through the faces of the deck to pull out some cards you need. You're able to arrange certain other cards in an order that you need later. And that's one thing that I always love about John Bannon, and especially in this book, is that he's always thinking one step ahead. He's always giving you the maximum bang for your buck in terms of the magic that you can create with the moments that you just created. After having the spectator cut to the 4 aces, he does a trick with the 4 aces that's kind of a cross between Dr. Daly's last card trick and twisting the aces. Gives you his take on that. And then he leads you right into one of my favorite pieces in the entire book, Beyond Fabulous. This is his take on Henry Criss' fabulous 4 ace trick. And I believe that in John Bannon's own words, the pain to glory ratio on this is right. And what does that mean? The original Henry Criss trick was notoriously knacky or a little bit difficult to learn. That's not to say it was impossible. I know plenty of people who do it and do it quite well. However, this particular version that Mr. Bannon teaches is really easy to learn, really easy to do, and absolute fooler. Of course, in the end, you end up with a kicker of the royal flush in aces, which always goes over great because remember, when you started this whole series of effects, you started with a shuffled and potentially borrowed deck. course, if poker deals or poker reveals are not your thing, at the end of the trick, there's another way to end it where you simply find the fourth ace and the person helps you. Pretty fantastic stuff. In the next section, it's called Dead Reckoning, and this is where things start to get really, really amazing. Dead Reckoning is one of my favorite tricks to perform, both for lay people and magicians. It is an incredible fooler because when you do it for yourself, you won't believe that it works. But as an overview, a participant is allowed to cut off a portion of the deck, shuffle it, look at a card, bury that card, cut the cards and lose that card, bury it in the rest of the deck. You're able to count down cards one at a time, having the person mentally spell the name of their card. They'll merely think stop. They say nothing. They think stop. And you have stopped exactly when they thought, and the card you have is their card. It's incredible. It's really, it plays just as clean and as strong as I just described. It's an awesome effect, and you won't believe the method is almost as fun as the trick itself. In one of the follow-up tricks within this section, he has a sandwich routine that is probably the best sandwich routine I've seen, and it follows a similar presentation to the trick I just described, where someone finds a card randomly, you have no idea what it is, genuinely. They lose the card, you genuinely have no idea where the card is. You take two pair, whether it's two kings, I believe in the description, turn them face up, place them in the deck and give the cards a shuffle, and when you do, one card gets shuffled in between those two cards. They name their card, and it's the one that's in between the two. It's sandwiched. It's probably the best sandwich routine I've seen. The next section is called Degrees of Freedom, and it's kind of a mixture between a puzzle and a magic trick. And again, you're going to fool yourself doing the trick for yourself, but in effect, cards are placed face up and face down on the table. Actually, you might start with them all face up and you start folding cards, and when you start folding cards by letting people make choices, you end up with only a certain number of cards going one direction, whether it's the four aces or the cards that they picked or their favorite suit or their favorite four of a kind. It doesn't really matter. There are tons of ways to deploy what he's giving you as a method, and he gives you several tricks to use it, but it is a fantastic demonstration. It's a mathematical principle, but done in a highly entertaining way as only John Bannon could discover. There are a few more tricks to wrap up the book, so it's not a huge book, but I promise you, pound for pound, dollar for dollar, there's a ton of great magic in here. The next trick has to do with his friend Simon Aronson. If you don't know, John Bannon is part of the Chicago magic scene, and up until his passing, Simon Aronson was a great friend of John Bannon's, and they hung out together a lot. Simon Aronson had a strong impact on John Bannon's magic, and they shared ideas with each other, critiqued each other's work, and he even has some information at the beginning of the book about how much he owes Simon Aronson. Well, he took Simon Aronson's shuffleboard. In this book, John Bannon takes that and he turns it into kind of a mentalism piece whereby you're able to divine this information with seemingly no control over it. It's a great effect. He has a stand-up version of Triumph, which is completely in the hands, can be done walk around, borrowed shuffle deck. I think pretty much everything in this book, if I didn't say it already, is from a shuffle deck in use. There are a few items in the book that may require some kind of previous setup. For the most part, though, most of this is impromptu, or at least can be using anybody's deck. Even the pieces that require more of a setup still only use a regular deck. There are really no gaffes or gimmicks involved with this book. There are a couple versions right after this of versions of Gemini twins, but most of them with kicker endings, either you producing the four aces or the royal flush in spades or whatever suit that you'd prefer. You can actually see a performance of one of these tricks. I put it in as one of the hidden gems from this book when I first mentioned it on this channel. I will put a link in a card that will pop up above. The last item in the book is called The Power of Poker, and it's John Bannon's take on the 10-card poker deal, where you deploy 10 cards, the spectators get to make choices about who gets which card. All of those choices feel extremely free. There's really not much involved with Magician's Choice. It just kind of works itself, and you end up with the winning hand. This can be played really big for a parlor-sized crowd, or you could play this as a close-up thing with a borrowed deck and a friend at lunch. That kind of brings me to the point about John Bannon's magic, is that most of what he produces is well within the range of the average amateur magician or part-time professional magician. Nothing that he's come up with is going to be knuckle busting, or you're going to have to learn some kind of crazy invisible pass or a move under heat. No, most of his effects rely on subtlety over sleights. Although I have seen him perform, he certainly has the chops, but he's not going to require you to have those same chops to take advantage of his magic. While Mr. Bannon has released several other books since this one, filled with some great card magic of their own, Dear Mr. Fantasy has always held a special place in my heart as one of the first true dedicated card books that I ever bought. And like I said before, has really held me in good stead. I've always gotten a lot of use. I would probably say that at one point, more of my magic came from this book than any other book. So it really is an impressive work. With the current softbound version as well as the ebook, it's pretty affordable to get a copy. So I highly recommend that you get this, especially if you are just new into card magic, but you're looking for some stuff that's maybe hard-hitting and not completely semi-automatic or self-working. A lot of this magic can grow with you, because if you know some good false shuffles or other mixes or different sleights, you can work those into the presentations and make it that much stronger. I don't know what more to tell you. I think this book is definitely worth your time and the investment to get it. We will be hearing more from Mr. Bannon in the near future. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, watching, sharing with your friends, and just overall enjoying these videos. I love producing them for you, and it's great to know that you're getting value from it. So if you are, let me hear from you. If there are questions I did not answer, I am an open book. So please don't hesitate to reach out to me either in the comments below or shoot me an email message, and I'll be happy to respond to you. Until next time, keep reading.